Hello again, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And today I've got something special to show you. This is the stained glass granny. Yes! Now it doesn't look like your typical granny because of the overlay of lattice going on here, but underneath it is actually a granny square blanket. And for those of you that have been following me for any length of time, know full and well I'm a big fan of the granny. And this is actually a technique that was shown to me by one of my subscribers, Annette. Thank you so much for showing me how to do this technique via Facebook. Thank you so very much. Now, it is a slight alteration from what she had shown me, but this is the gist, and it's really quite simple. Now, keep in mind, it is a bit time consuming, but considering the circumstances these days, we have a lot of time on our hands. And this is also potentially a really great stash buster. Yes, indeed. Because, like granny squares in general, every round that you do can be another color if you so wish. This particular technique would really lend itself to variegated yarns or ombres or whatever you got. Just keep in mind that the yarn that you use, if you're using different brands or different colors or what have you, just be sure that the yarn itself, that the material is the same. If it's acrylic, stay with acrylic. If it's wool, stay with wool. And also, of course, if the weight of the yarn is the same, if it's a 4 weight, then stick with 4 weight, even if the label says that they're both 4s, feel it, see if it's the right, feeling in your hands. It's like, does it feel equivalent? If so, okay. If not, no dice. That being said, it really is quite an easy technique to get down. I also did make some variations from what she had shown me along the entire border. I made that the same color as the lattice work so that it would blend in better. That's my own personal take on it, but Annette did show me how to do it initially. And the back of this actually is just as pretty as the front. So either way, it's a win-win, and I love this project. Now, this piece that I did is approximately 5 foot square, a little bit, a couple of inches more, but it's approximately a 5 foot square blanket. Yes. And I used a lot of yarn. I used over a skein of the light gray, over a skein of the blue, and these were pound of love. Okay, so like 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds per color. Then I used over a pound of this charcoal gray. And this was all pound of love, so it's all acrylic, lots of yardage, but you're going to need it if you want to do a single square blanket. You can, of course, make smaller squares and then join them together. I haven't tried that technique yet, so that's going to be something that you would have to figure out. You could probably do the join as you go method, or sewing them together, but I'm just putting it out there that I haven't done that technique as far as joining these particular squares together. But I wanted to give you the lowdown because I do get a lot of questions about how much yarn you use or what yarn you use. So I wanted to be thorough for you guys. Also, I used, let me see, yeah, here it is. I used for this project a size J 6mm hook, okay? Even though the recommended hook size for this yarn is, I believe, a size I wanted it to be nice and flowy, and also the texture with this lattice work is awesome. So enough of my rambling. We are going to get started. I am going to give an overview of how to make your granny square. If you already know, that's fine. What I did in the corners, I did 2 chains in the corners and 1 chain in between the clusters. So if you already know how to do a granny, that's fine. Skip ahead. I will put timestamps in the description box down below. And yeah, so if you want to skip ahead to the actual lattice work, that's fine too. Okay. Um, the only thing, like I said, that I did differently than Annette was I did 2 rounds of the same color that you want the lattice work to be, just as long as it's a good contrast, whether it's lighter, darker, what have you, but a good contrast. Okay, now, finally, enough of my rambling. Let's get started. All right, so round 1 of your sort of typical granny square. I'm going to go over this with you guys. And if you're still with me, in spite of that really long intro, thank you. So basically, we're going to start with our obligatory slip knot. And then, now everybody has a different sort of starting point that they like to use. I like to chain 4. By the way, the yarn that I'm using right now is also Pound of Love. This is the light pink, and I'm still using a size J hook, which actually I did check the label, and yes, it does suggest using a size J. So I'm finally following some rules here. So I chained 4, and then do a slip stitch into that first chain to create a ring, like so, and then chain up 3. 1, 2, and 3, and that's going to count as our first double crochet. We need 2 more double crochets into that center ring to create our first cluster, like so, and then chain 2, and then into that center ring, 3 more doubles. Whoop. And also I'm crocheting over my tail, which will make it easier to deal with later. I still sew it in later though. So I've got 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles, well, chain 2 again, 3 more doubles into that center ring, chain 2, and 3 more doubles into the center ring. And this is a pretty generic means of starting your granny square. And then chain 2, and then slip stitch into the top 3rd chain, going underneath both loops of that top stitch there, and do a slip stitch. And of course, my yarn split, but that's okay. There we go. And slip stitch. All right, and then what you want to do is get to this corner, because we're not going to be turning our work. We're going to be, keep going around and around and around. So what I always like to do is, after slip stitching into that first double crochet, I slip stitch into the next double crochet, and then into the next, and then into the chain 2 space of the next corner. That's my personal preference. Okay. So that is the first round. Alrighty. Alrighty, so round 2. I'm gonna start by chaining up 3. 1, 2, and 3. That counts again as our first double. And into the chain 2 space, 2 more doubles. So that's our first cluster. Chain 2, and 3 more doubles into the same space. chain 1, and then into this corner, it's going to be another 2 more clusters. So into here, 3 doubles, chain 2, and 3 doubles. There we go. Chain 1. We got another corner, so 3 doubles, chain 2, and 3 doubles. Chain 1 into the next corner, 3 doubles, chain 2, and 3 doubles. Alrighty. So we have our 4 corners. All we need to do is bridge the gap once more. So chain 1, and then slip stitch to the top 3rd chain where you did your first double crochet. Slip stitch right in here. I don't know what is up with this first one, always giving me problems. Why, oh, why? There we go. So slip stitch into that first one, slip stitch into the next one, and the next one, and then slip stitch into the corner. And that is round 2. All right, round 3, chain up 3, and then 2 double crochets to make up our first cluster. There we go. Chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets into that same corner space. There we are. Chain 1, and then into the chain 1 space, 3 doubles, chain 1, into the corner, 3 doubles, chain 2, and 3 more doubles. There we are. Chain 1, 3 doubles into the chain 1 space. And this is pretty much it for the rest of your entire granny project. You know, the granny aspect of the stained glass granny, that is. So you do your 3 doubles, chain 1, and then into the corner, 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles. So I got my 3 doubles, chain 2, and then 3 more doubles. Now, some people, they don't like to do the chain 1 in between the clusters, or they do 3 chains in the corners, or, I mean, there's a lot of personal preference variations, just like with most things. But I'm going to chain 1, and then into the chain 1 space, 3 doubles, chain 1, and then into the corner, 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles. Usually I do 3 chains, but I found that with this particular project that the 2 chains worked out just fine. Chain 1, and then into the chain 1 space, 3 doubles. And then chain 1, and then to finish it off, slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet that we made, that chain 3. And hopefully this one won't get stuck. There we go. And then slip stitch into the next, slip stitch into the next, and then slip stitch into the corner. And that is round 3. Now, you can, of course, change color, at any given point. The piece that I did, the blue and the gray, I did 5 rounds of one color, then I swapped, and then I did 5 rounds of another color, etc., etc., etc. You could do 1 round per color. You can do whatever it is that you like as far as your color palette is concerned. By all means, have fun with it. But what you would do is to continue on, you would chain up 3, 2 more double crochets, chain 2, 3 more double crochets, chain 1, 3 doubles, chain 1, 3 doubles, chain 1, 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles, chain 1, 3 doubles, chain 1, 3 doubles, all the way around, and you would keep doing the same sort of thing, adding clusters in the middle, and then double clusters in the corners for as many rounds as you want for your piece to be. Yes. And now I'm going to do, I think, maybe another round or 2 off camera, and then I'm going to show you how you can go about adding the lattice work. Alrighty. So I think, maybe another round or so, and then I'm going to show you how to do that. And that is really the crux of the stained glass granny. Now, like I said, keep in mind that what I did for my particular rendition is I did 2 rounds of the same color that I wanted the lattice work to be. I'm not going to do that for this tutorial because I want you to see better what it is that I'm doing. But, for your finished project, I would suggest doing at least 1 round, maybe 2 rounds of the color of yarn that you want to do your lattice work with for the final 2 rounds or so. That's just personal preference, all right? Makes it a lot easier, I think. But that being said, I'm going to do another round or so off camera, and I will meet back up with you. Alrighty. Alrighty, so I did 5 rounds total, and I sewed in my ends. Makes it a lot easier, trust me, if you sew them in as you go for this project. And also, play pretend for just a bit, and imagine that the last round or 2 that I did is in the contrasting color, but for the sake of being able to see it easier, I decided to, keep it, the different colors so that you could see it a little bit better. So this also is Pound of Love in the denim. Yes, I'm going to show you now how you can go about creating the lattice work on top. Very, 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 very simple, and only just a few ends to sew in. Not a big deal. All right, so my personal preference is I like to start in the corner. You could start on one of these chain spaces, but I like to start in the corner. So I'm going to grab my contrasting color here and pull up a loop. And I like to chain 1 just to sort of lock it in place. And then slip stitch across these 3 double crochets. Now you could slip stitch into just the front loop only, the one that's facing me right now, which will make it less present on the other side. However, if you have this last round as the same color as your lattice work yarn, you will not see it at all. And then slip stitch into the chain space as well, like so, and then chain 3. And then we're going to turn our work, because now we're going to slip stitch into here, and then chain 3 and slip stitch here, and chain 3 and slip stitch here as well. So insert your hook and slip stitch, chain 3, and then slip stitch again. Now you might want to play around with how many chains you're actually doing. You know, you might only need 2. Me, it worked out fine using 3 because I have a tendency of stitching tightly. So I'm going to chain 3 again, and then slip stitch into this chain space. Like so. And this is what we have thus far. All right. And then from here, what I like to do is I like to go in from the back, and I like to slip stitch across this way. Now, because we're working from the back, if you wanted to have your slip stitches just on the one side, it would be the back loops only, because this is the top side. So either way, let's slip stitch, and then slip stitch into the chain space. It would help if I gave myself a little bit more room to breathe there. There we go. And then turn your work again. And now we're going to go in the opposite direction this way. It's going to be sort of a ziggy-zaggy deal going on here. So now chain 3, and then slip stitch here, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, and chain 3, slip stitch. All right, so I got my chain 3, slip stitch into this space right here. Chain 3, and then slip stitch into the next space, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, and then slip stitch along the side here. There you go. So as you can see, we're going back and forth and back and forth. Now, if this cluster here were the blue, you wouldn't notice this little bit right there. Otherwise, I would say, yeah, do a slip stitch into, if you're holding it from this way, slip stitch into the back loops only, or slip stitch into the front loops only. That's why I'm stressing that point, just in case. And then so we're going to slip stitch our way across this way. In fact, you know what? I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm just going to go into the front loops only, because this is, after all, just a demo piece. There we go. And then slip stitch into the chain space. Okay, chain 3. Turn the work again. Now we're going to go back this way. And we're going to slip stitch into this space here. Chain 3. Slip stitch into the next space. Chain 3. And then slip stitch into the next space. Chain 3. And into the next one. Chain 3. Slip into the next. Chain 3. Into the next. Chain 3. And into the last edge space. And then, if you are so inclined, you can slip stitch into the back loop only. And then into the chain space. So, as you can see, by doing this, it's only on the one side there. I mean, it still shows through a little bit. And then on this side, how well does that look in comparison? Oh, keeps going flippy floppy on me. Not that much of a difference, quite frankly. A little bit of a difference, but I wanted to show you that there are alternative methods. Personally, I think that just going through both is a lot easier. And then I'm going to do the same thing going back this way. And then on the middle row, I'm going to show you what you do because this seems a little bit daunting, but I am going to show you that as well. So what I'm going to do is off camera, I'm going to go back this way, and then I'm going to double back around, and I'm going to show you what to do when you reach the center. All right, but it's really the same thing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Alrighty, so I'm going to do a little bit off camera, and I'll meet back up with you. Alrighty, so I did a little bit of stitching off camera, but I wanted to show you when we reach the center. So I went on a row, and then I doubled back a little bit, but I wanted to show you what you do when you reach that center. And I'm almost there, so I wanted to show you. So again, I chain 3. And then slip stitch, chain 3. All right, now you don't want to do this too tightly with the center because we're going in underneath, all the way underneath that center point here, okay? But you don't want to do it too tightly. Otherwise, it will pucker. And then chain 3, and then slip stitch into the next space. Come on, there we go. And there you go. That is the center. So it's really treated exactly like we have been treating the other slip stitches, but you have to go through all the way underneath. Alrighty, and then you just keep on going in the same fashion of chaining 3 and doing a slip stitch. until you reach the opposite corner. And then slip stitch into that very corner there, and then turn the work, and then slip stitch your way down this side, and then into the chain space, and chain 3, and then you're going to go this way, and so on and so forth until you reach the very bottom. Okay, so basically it's just going back, and then forth, and then back, and then forth, and then into the point. All right, and I'm going to get to about here, and then I'm going to show you what I mean. All right, so I'm going to go back and forth a little bit off camera. You know, it's really the same thing backwards and forwards and forwards and backwards. All right, I'll be back in a bit. Alrighty, so we're almost done with the first pass. And, you know, I like to recap and make sure that you guys got it. So I'm just going to skedaddle my way over this way. And then into here, just doing my slip stitches. And then chain 3. And then slip stitch. Like I said, it can be a little bit fiddly, but it is so worth it. And then chain 3, and then slip stitch. And then chain 3, and then slip stitch. And then turn your work. And I like to get to the corner. That's just me personally. Da-da-da-dum. All right, so that is the first pass. Now, if you notice, it does not look square anymore. No, it looks like a diamond. And let me just scoot out a little bit. Yeah, it has stretched. Yeah, it has. However, do not be alarmed because this happened to me. Yes, it did. Do not be alarmed because when we go in the opposite direction, it will straighten itself out. Trust me. Because when this was happening, I'm like, oh God, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. Trust me. This is normal, okay? Well, again, normal is relative, especially where I'm concerned. But yes, when we go in the opposite direction, it will even itself out. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Alrighty. Alrighty, so now for the second pass, you know, we started on this corner and we ended on this corner. Well, now we're going to start either one, you know, whether it's this corner here or this corner here, they're identical. So it really does not matter which, okay? So what I like to do is you could go in here. However, if you go underneath this loop and then through, it sort of locks things in a little bit. So I'm going to pick up a loop, pull it on up, and chain 1 to lock it, and then shimmy sham your way across with some slip stitches. Like so. Oh, I told you it's a little bit fiddly, but it is worth it. And then when you slip stitch into this space, again, if you sort of go around this chaining of 3 and do your slip stitch, again, it locks it, which I rather like. And then from here, going to chain 3. We're going to turn the work. And we're going to do a slip stitch underneath here, like so. And chain 3. And slip stitch. And chain 3. All right, now again, going underneath here, underneath your bar, and do your slip stitch. Because I think it looks, personally, I think it looks better if you lock in your previous bars. There you go. And then continue on by doing your slip stitches. Slip, slip, and slip. And then, okay, so now lock this bar with your slip stitch. Turn the work. And chain 3. Okay, and then do your slip stitch. There we go. And chain 3. Also, try to use the same tension that you used going one way as going the other way. Believe you me, you don't want it to be, puckered one way and not the other way, and so on and so forth. So then again, going underneath and slip stitch, chain 3, and slip stitch. So if you can use the same tension, that'll help. Chain 3. And slip stitch. Chain 3. Okay, now we've reached the end, so going underneath this bar, and slip stitch. Locks it in. And then do your slip stitches down this side. And then lock it into place. Chain 3. Turn the work. So you can see it's already really starting to pop. Love it. And then so from here, going underneath and slip stitch, chain 3. And slip stitch. Now, I will say something, though, that the bigger your piece is, it can get a little bit cumbersome, because if it's a really big square like I had it, which was like 5 foot, every time you have to keep turning your piece. So you might want to consider doing smaller squares that are then joined together. But like I said, I haven't tried joining these together. Part of me, admittedly, part of me was sort of kicking myself. I'm like, oh God, I have to turn this, every time I go across. But I think it looks gorgeous. So kind of worth it. Well, very much worth it, but you know what I mean. All right, so now I have to lock it in place with my slip stitch, and then slip stitch across here, and so on and so forth. There we go. And then again, lock this into place. Okay. So you would just keep on keeping on in the same exact fashion. Now, what you could do is you could go underneath the bars. You could make it look woven, if you are so inclined. I just went over, on the second pass, I just went over all of them, And then, now this is the tail. That's why it looks all wonky, because I didn't sew in my end. But it looks great on both sides. Isn't that awesome? It's awesome. At least I think it's awesome. I hope you do too. So that is how you would go about doing your piece. Yeah. And so basically going in this direction, it's the exact same process as we did in the first one. And you know what? Just to show you that I'm not delusional, I am going to do the rest of this piece. I'm going to do it off camera so that you can see, yes, it does even itself out. Yes, it does. And also, when you reach the center point, again, just be careful not to pucker your piece. Don't pucker. And so I'm going to do the rest of this off camera, and I will show you what I'm talking about. Alrighty. Alrighty, so I'm almost done with the second pass, and I just wanted to recap with you guys. Just doing my little slip stitches until I reach that space here where I have to lock in the stitch. Makes it look so much prettier, much neater. And then do my 3 chains, and then slip stitch. There we go. There we are. And then chain 3. See, my problem is that I have a tendency, like I always say, I have this fabulous tendency of stitching very tightly. I have sort of a death grip. And then my slip stitch and chain 3. And then again, going underneath and slip. There we are. Locks it in. Turn the work, and then mosey my way to the point. And then lock it in by going underneath, and shaboom. And there you go. And then so you can cut off your ends and sew in your tails. And look, it's a square again. Yes, I'm going to pick up my camera and I'm going to show you what I mean. It's actually a square again. It's not a diamond anymore. Yay! So it does even itself out on the second pass. Now, as you can see, these edges, they look a little bit funky, monkey. However, that is why I totally suggest doing the last round or 2 in the same color as your lattice work. And there you go, the stained glass granny. And it looks awesome on one side, looks awesome on the other side. It's gorgeous. It has a really awesome texture to it. I absolutely love it. Love it, love it. Very, very much so. And I hope you guys like it too. Yeah. So if you did like this, by the way, again, thank you so very much to Annette for showing me this technique. I know I did make some alterations, but, the gist of it is there, and I do want to thank her so very much. Thank you, Annette. And if you like this tutorial, give a little thumbs up button down below. Show your appreciation because I appreciate your appreciation, most definitely. And, I hope that you guys give this a whirl because it's a lot of fun. It's a great stash buster. I wouldn't suggest, I wouldn't suggest doing different colors for the lattice work. I think it might be a little too trippy, and a little too busy if you were to do that. For the sake of sort of uniformity, I think it would be good to have one solid color. But yeah, have fun with it. Go crazy. Yeah. And yeah, hit subscribe for more because I do try to post often, whether it's crocheting or knitting or audiobook narrations. I will get to those again at some point, trust me. Product reviews and so much more. And yeah, my other YouTube channel, Fiber Spider Games, where I do video game playthrough and commentary. Check that out in the description box down below. Yeah. So until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and stay safe. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.